What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to The Breakdown, the series where I analyze gameplay to help you improve. In today's episode, we're going to be analyzing a gameplay from a friend of mine. You guys may have seen him in a couple of my gameplays from Black Ops 2, or in a live commentary challenge that I did. He joined me for that. His name is The One Boom, and we're going to be analyzing a gameplay from him on Encore. Let's get into it. Alright, so before we get into the analysis, I just want to say that I am going to be accepting more gameplay submissions for this series, so make sure you stick around to the end of the video. I'll explain a little bit more, because I know in the last episode I said I would no longer take submissions because I had more than enough to get me through till Advanced Warfare, but things have changed a little bit, so stick around to the end of the video if you want to have your gameplay analyzed in this series. Also, at the end of the video, I have a great tip for calling in lightning strikes, and this also comes from a little clip from The One Boom. It's not from this gameplay though, it's from a different game from this same gaming session. So make sure you stick around for that tip. Alright, so let's finally get into the game. As you can see, we're playing Domination on Encore, and you can see that I'm in the game as well, and a few other subscribers. We're basically a full party, and we're feeling pretty confident at this point. So Boom decides to use the MP7. I don't know his exact class, but he takes this nice rush route here. Wins that gunfight. I also want to point out this is recorded from theater mode, so while it may look like his aim really sucks in some situations, it's not necessarily what he saw on his screen. But right here is the first mistake that I need to point out. This is something that ProBeast did from the last episode, and it's a really common mistake. He strafed in a gunfight. Strafing is good in a gunfight, but he strafed really far out into the open, and he completely overcommitted to being out in the open. He has no chance of getting back to cover at this point. He's already put himself way too far out in the open, and this is why he loses this gunfight. Instead, he should have strafed a little bit to help him win that first gunfight, and then he should have strafed back towards cover as he was challenging the second gunfight. You can see he kind of started to do that, but he was already too far out there. So just one little thing to pay attention to is don't strafe too far out of cover. Now in this gameplay, I am going to be skipping through some of the slower parts, but for this slow part here, I just wanted to point out, watch his crosshairs. Watch where his crosshairs are at all times. He's really good at keeping his crosshairs at chest level and always aiming generally where he would expect an enemy to be. So that's one really nice thing about his gameplay that I noticed, and it's a really bad habit that a lot of people develop. They often look at the ground or in the sky or just in some random place where enemies can't be. But right here is something I really like that he does also. He's planning on going to the left, but he checks to the right before going to the left, so he knows that his back is going to be somewhat safe. Now he wins this gunfight, and then he gets around that corner as fast as possible, which is another good thing, because when he did check to the right, he didn't see all the way into the cafe, and there is a long line of sight from the cafe into that area where he just won that gunfight, and his back was exposed to that area where there could have been an enemy. And he knew that, so he got around that corner as fast as possible. Now at this point, a VSAT has been called in, and he, for some reason, has committed to running this way on the map. I don't know why he went this way when it's clear the enemies are not over here. Maybe he was predicting a spawn flip, but even right here, the enemies clearly start spawning behind him at A, and yet he didn't turn around to go challenge those enemies. He sort of committed to just doing his little lap around the map. And in my opinion, he wasted a lot of time by doing that, where he could have been getting more kills. Just a minor thing, but it's worth mentioning in my opinion. Now right here, great jump shot. He does have good gun skill. I've noticed that in a lot of gunfights. Sometimes he kind of overcommits to a single gunfight though, and he doesn't prepare for multiple enemies. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Overall, though, he does use techniques like jump shots, drop shots to his advantage to win gunfights, which I really like. Skipping ahead just slightly, the enemies have just captured the C flag, and now they'll be coming towards the middle of the map. Boom jumps out to challenge this guy, and again, he uses great gunfighting tactics, like he jump shots into a drop shot, which is really hard to hit your enemy when they're doing that. So for a single gunfight, if it was just one guy, I think Boom would have clearly won that gunfight, no issue at all. The problem is he anticipated there would only be one enemy, and in that case, we had flipped their spawn to the C flag, and it was clear after they captured the C flag, they'd be heading straight towards the middle of the map. He should have expected more than one enemy, or at least prepared for the possibility of more than one enemy. So if it were me, I would have been aiming down sight just above that speaker right about now, and I would have pushed up slowly while aimed down sight to that speaker to take control of that piece of cover, and then I would have used that piece of cover to my advantage to challenge enemies. And I feel like that would have been a much better way to handle that situation. Instead, he kind of committed, jumped out into the open again, which is unpredictable, which is good, but he jumped out into the open and he was just kind of screwed because there was 2 enemies instead of 1. Now he spawns in and he's going to push back towards C, and look at that kill feed. But he's pushing over towards the concession area, and there's another thing to point out that he does right about here, just coming up. He jumps up here and he looks down a longer line of sight. If he had done this with an assault rifle, I would have said, great move, you've locked down that doorway now, and anybody that comes in that doorway is dead. But you have an SMG, and you shouldn't be looking at a longer line of sight like that with an SMG, especially with your entire body exposed. If somebody had an assault rifle there, if there were an enemy in that doorway with an assault rifle, Boom likely would have lost that gunfight. It would have been a very difficult gunfight to win, so I don't really like that he did that with an SMG. Now skipping ahead just slightly, as he comes in here, I really like how he does this. He doesn't sprint when he walks around this corner. He walks around the corner, which makes him ready for a gunfight and really fast to react to that gunfight. If he had been sprinting through that doorway, it's very likely he would have lost that one. And skipping ahead again here, wins this gunfight. Great gunfighting skills there. Again, he doesn't get caught sprinting or anything like that. He was ready for that gunfight and he won it. This is the part where I have a question for you guys. Would you guys take this shot? Me personally, I wouldn't take this shot with an SMG. That's just outside of the range where I feel like I could kill that enemy before he'd have time to react to me shooting him with an SMG. That's just my opinion though. I would likely try and push up, and maybe I could push directly for him right now. I could push straight forward and get a little bit closer. But Boom decides to take the shot and he actually gets the kill. So good for him. He was confident that he could get the kill, it seemed like. He might have long barrel on this MSMC. It seems like he might because he killed that guy quite quickly, but good for him. He got the kill. So right about now, he sees that there's clearly enemies in the cafe and they're shooting at me actually on the flag with him. And he knows there's enemies there. Now a VSAT did just get called in, and it is very easy that he didn't quite see this VSAT in time. Keep in mind this VSAT was called in like a couple frames before I paused it, so in the heat of the moment, it's very likely he didn't quite see this VSAT pop up in time. But he knows there's enemies in the cafe, and I think he got a little bit of tunnel vision here. He doesn't recognize, or at least he doesn't react to the enemy on his right, and the enemy on his right is the biggest threat to him at the moment. Had he seen this enemy, he probably would have, and he should have, backed off a little bit and focused on that enemy on his right, because the guys in the cafe, it'll take them a little while to actually get to him, whereas the guy on his right is going to have a line of sight on him within a second or two. So instead of focusing on the guy on his right, he got that little bit of tunnel vision and he pushed out into the open towards the group of enemies that he knew were in that cafe. Now, great job on his part. He did get a double kill. He did end up getting 2 of those guys, which I probably wouldn't have gotten both of them. But at the same time, there was no way that he was going to come out of that situation alive once he committed to going out into the open. Skipping ahead a little bit, the enemies are on the C flag in this situation, and he sees that there's 2 of them, and so he decides to throw a C4. Throwing a C4 in this situation is not a bad idea at all, because there are 2 enemies, and it could make for a really easy double kill, or it could kill one and then maybe hurt another one if one of them has flak jacket, and then he can finish them off with the gun. His execution of this, though, was very, very bad. So he actually comes out, throws a C4, and then he continues to push out into the open towards his enemies and completely exposes himself, and because of that, he actually gets killed and only picks up 1 kill with the C4. A much better and a much safer option would have been to just throw the C4 over top of that wall. If he would have sprinted forward and done like a jumping throw of the C4, it would have easily made it right onto the C flag, and they wouldn't have even seen his body at all by doing that. Another option that's a little bit easier is he could have done the same thing, but just throw the C4 around the corner and then just get back behind that corner that he came from. He would have exposed himself for very little time, not enough time for them to kill him, at least probably not enough time, and he would have had that cover while blowing that C4 up, killing the first enemy, and then he could have finished off the second one. So skipping into the second round here, this is something that I see a lot of people do in Black Ops 2, and that is that they rely way too much on C4. He throws C4 before even trying to challenge the gunfight. If he would have just shot the guy, he probably would have gotten that kill because the guy was looking at his teammate rather than him. Instead, he throws that C4 and kind of hoped that he didn't have flak jacket. Turns out the enemy did have flak jacket on, and therefore he lost that situation and he died. So after he spawns in, he comes around this corner and he, along with the teammate, decided to challenge that guy at kind of a longer range for an SMG, but that's okay because there was two of them, so not a big deal. But now he's pushed back out a little bit, and you can see there's an enemy right by the forklift at a pretty long range for an SMG. Now he has the option to go to cover to his right, he has that trash can right there, but instead he pushes out again into the open with absolutely no chance of getting to cover at this point. He's completely committed, the enemy has much better cover than him, and he's at kind of the outer limits of the effective range of this SMG against an assault rifle. So he was pretty much dead as soon as he made that decision to push out into the open. So I skipped a little bit ahead, but this is right after that last death pretty much. He switched to an assault rifle. He decided that his gunfights were mainly in long range instead of closer ranges, so he did make a good choice to switch to an assault rifle, and he played that gunfight perfectly. He strafed into cover, and he was at a perfect range to challenge that gunfight, and now he's also being patient with his enemies. He's being a lot more patient, not just pushing out into the open, which I really like. He's learning from his mistakes, which is good. And right here is a situation that a lot of players wouldn't really recognize, but he did recognize, which I really like. So you'll see that we're really pushing hard towards the A flag, and I just picked up 2 kills with a lightning strike, which is effectively blocking those spawns off, because I had just killed enemies right on those spawns with that lightning strike. Because of this, he anticipates a spawn flip, and he anticipates the enemies will be spawning at C. It was a really smart move. He actually turned around, and he started heading towards C. Unfortunately, it was kind of poor execution though. He pulled out his knife to help him run a little bit faster to get to those C spawns, and he wasn't quite expecting to run into an enemy so soon. So he did end up dying, but he made a really smart move, and he did predict that spawn flip. So not a lot else happens for the rest of the game, so I thought I'd just skip to the end. He ends up going 12-8 with 5 captures, and I want to be clear that this is not a typical game of him. Out of about a 3-hour gaming session for that day, I had gameplays to pick because I wanted to use one of his gameplays, and this was his worst gameplay of the day, his worst game of the day. Normally he's kind of up there, kind of around where I'm at. He's usually in the 30 to 40 kill range, and not very many deaths at the same time, so he's not a bad player. This was just not a good game for him, so I want to be very clear with that when I say this. But now, as promised, I want to show you guys a great tip for lightning strikes, for calling in lightning strikes in Black Ops 2 from a different game, but this is also from the One Boom. So he gets a couple kills with a pistol. We're playing pistol only this game for fun. He calls in his lightning strike. So the #1 tip is remember where you're dropping your lightning strike, and then don't run directly into where you're calling your lightning strike, because it will kill you. Sorry, Boom, I had to do it. I thought it would be pretty funny. We were laughing at him pretty hard when we saw that kill feed when he only killed himself with the lightning strike. So just thought I'd throw that in there. And right here is proof that he's not a bad player. He's actually beating me at this point in the game. So I just wanted to show you guys that as well. So now it's time to talk about the gameplays and gameplay submissions. So I know I said in the last episode that I have more than enough gameplays to analyze until the beginning of Advanced Warfare, but after I started actually going and watching these gameplays, I just knew they were there, but I hadn't watched them all yet. I hadn't found the time. I went and watched a bunch of them trying to find a gameplay to analyze, and most of them are really good or flawless gameplays even, and I'm not looking for flawless gameplays. I'm not looking for exceptional gameplays. I'm looking for gameplays where there are lots of lessons to be learned. Most of the gameplays there are more so really, really good gameplays with a few mistakes. I'm not saying they were all flawless or anything, but most of the time they were pretty dominant. The player in the game was pretty much dominating the match, and there wasn't a whole lot of mistakes to learn from. So that's not what I'm looking for. I really do appreciate you guys sending me the gameplay and everything. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, oh, you guys suck because you guys sent me good gameplays. I understand that you guys don't want to look bad. I do understand that, but at the same time, I want this series to be as helpful as possible. And it's not really all that helpful when I'm seeing gameplays where I look at it and go, I would have done the same thing, or I probably would have died in that situation. You did it better than me. There's not a whole lot I can really share with you guys when you guys are playing very well. So I'm looking for gameplays that are more average. I don't want to give you like a specific kill-death ratio to aim for as far as the gameplay goes, but I don't want to see like a 30+ kill game with 10 or less deaths or something like that. I want to see something where there's a little bit of struggle going on in the gameplay. And I know I might sound a little picky here, but like I said, I want this series to be as helpful as possible. So if you guys would like to send me a gameplay, it's more of an average gameplay, and it does have to be in 720p, please. I know a couple people did send me some gameplays that they recorded with a camera, like they filmed their TV, and I'm just not going to be able to post that on my channel. I want HD gameplay, even if it is somebody else's gameplay that I'm analyzing. I hope you guys can understand that. I want it to be at least 720p. If you guys would like to send me your gameplays though for analysis, I will leave my email address in the description of this video, so you can send them there, and then I will have a look at them. And if it's something that I want to analyze, I feel like there's lots of lessons to be learned and things I can point out in that video, then I'll be sure to analyze it in a future episode. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.